Would have been the technical site or the work site of the airfield in 43. It would have had on control tower, briefing rooms, offices, workshops, equipment huts, maintenance stores, motor transport section, dinghy sheds, anything you'd need for the working of an airfield. The living accommodation was about 3/4 mile away in the village, so every morning the ground crew lads had to have bikes to come down here to service their Lancasters, which in daytime were all parked way round the airfield. And of course we all know where the Lancs were at night. So in August 43, when the airfield opened, 1,200 RAF people were suddenly plonked onto this tiny village of just 200 people. We're going to go halfway round on the old wartime perimeter track. Up to 2 years ago we used to be able to go all the way round, but we're going to go halfway now. But we can go up the main runway today, which is really rather good. The aircraft were never stored in the hangars. They only went in there for major maintenance or serious battle damage. This grass area in a minute was the site of the I've done this job for years and I always forget. The site of the number 1 hangar. It's a huge area. It took up this whole area and its offices. By the way, apologies because there's very little left. I hope you don't feel cheated, but I've done ever such a lot of research and I've been doing it for God knows how long, 15 years. Right. Number 2 hangar site, number 1 hangar site. This hangar is very close to the southern end of the village. So if you lived at the southern end of the village when the airfield opened, you could show off and say, I've got a hangar at the bottom of my garden. But of course, having a hangar at the bottom of your garden was not a good idea. In among these trees was the huge aircrew building, probably 2 stories. It's where the aircrew had everything really, and where they had their restroom, their fire room, their locker room. It's where they got their flying harness, their helmet, their jacket, and their parachute. And when they were all topped up, a crew bus would come round, driven by a wagon, and pick them up and take them out of their aircraft. So that building, which was in among those trees, was the last building that some airfield ever saw in Britain. And we all know very sad reason why. It has concrete on the floor. When we stop in a minute, look between the hedge, look for a tiny brick building. You probably can't see it. On some trips in your life, and you've never had a sewage treatment works pointed out to you. That one was very important, because when 1,200 RAF people came, they'd got to have proper flush sanitation. Well, none of the villages round had proper toilets, you know, that you pull chains or push buttons. But when the RAF had their posh toilets, this village and this village alone got flush toilets. So now, not only could you show off about having a hangar at the bottom of your garden, you could also show off about having a flush loo. When that's the type of colleagues bit. They always felt over here, but slow down, I think they just love to look about like, you know. This was the joining point of 2 secondary runways. Bomber airfields had 3 runways, 2 secondaries which went like that and crossed the main runway. The main runway goes up by those trees, and we are going to be able to go up there. This secondary runway was extended by the Americans way after the war, 1954 to 58. They brought huge B-47 Stratojets, so it was wide enough then, and they lengthened it. When we get to the other end of that, you'll see about the American extension runway. But this one went straight back to farming, straight after the war. Halfway down, Pat, please. When we get halfway down, you'll wonder why on earth we stop. You can't see anything. So we're on the wartime perimeter. These Lancs bombers All these bomber airfields had frying pan-shaped dispersals, but the bigger ones, as this one was, as well as the frying pan-shaped, this one had loop dispersals or spectacle dispersals, where there were two areas where the lank could be worked on. And we know for dead sure, about 50 yards out, that there was a huge loop dispersal where the lanks could be worked on all during the day. Up to about 2 years ago, when there wasn't a crop, you could see a trace of where aviation fuel and oil and antifreeze, even this length of time after the war, it was still seeping up and it stopped the crops growing. But I've noticed the last 2 years the crops are winning. But I promise you, 60 yards out, I know you can't see it, but it is there, where there was a huge loop dispersal. I have to think where I got to now, don't I? Yeah. So they were all out, all the ranks parked out on here. Now imagine your ground crew, and it's 8 AM on a freezing morning in December. You had to come and do it whatever month it was. So your ground crew, and you cycled down here to service your lank, and the daytime engineer, not the nighttime pilot, the daytime engineer is high up in the cockpit, and he shouts down to you underneath the wings. He shouts, "Clear props," because he's going to start the engines. But you with a screeching wind off the North Sea, and it's December, and your head down and your coat collar up and you're looking in your tool bag, you don't hear him shout, "Move." And he thinks you've heard him, and he starts the engines. Very sadly, that starts the engines, and that moves the propeller blades. And you as ground crew are underneath. So sadly, that's how some ground crew lost their lives during the war, by being underneath moving propeller blades, because even the best pilot couldn't see them. Or imagine your ground crew again, and this time you're up on the engine and you've got to clean the spark plugs. All the fellas, although that cars have got 4 spark plugs. Well, a Lancaster one has got 96, and all those have got to be cleaned or repaired before you had your meal. It was always a question of getting those aircraft ready, whatever the weather, because they've got to fly at night. Oh, so sorry about this. Fly at night. And as well as getting the aircraft ready, sometimes they had to sweep the snow. And this airfield just seemed to have ever such a lot of snow. They tell me the boss man called them other high-ranking folk out to help some of the ground crew. They tell me that they had to sweep snow off the wings of the aircraft, off the dispersals, off the taxiway, and even off the runway. Only 3 groups of RAF men got out of snow sweeping: the cooks and the medical men and the police. Well, I can understand about the cooks and the medical men. I don't know about the police. Apologies to any tall men on board, you know. Seriously, this is to tell you what a super breed of men wartime ground crews were. Those glamorous aircrew boys would not have gone anywhere without the efforts of their ground crew. And ground crews from wartime get forgotten. Please don't let us forget them. This airfield was just openness, flatness, grass and concrete, enclosing 800 acres. When crews come back now, I get a lot of crews coming back, that's why I know my stories are true, and they look round and they say, "Oh, the airfield seems to have shrunk." No, it hasn't shrunk at all, really. When you get a bit older, everything seems to have shrunk, doesn't it? Yeah. So the ground crew lads came down on their bikes, parked them all close together, and in the freezing winters, very soon, the bike chains froze to the rear sprockets and the bike wouldn't move. I'm so sorry about this. But the RAF always did teach you how to be resourceful, and it wasn't long before some bright young ground crew airmen, men, they were mainly men, 1 or 2 women, but it's men for this story. He found a way to move the bike, thaw the bikes. He said to all these young laddies, "Go and stand in front of a bike each." So they did. They looked innocently up into the sky. They had you've got it. They had their hands in front of them, and very suddenly, by the frozen bikes, there was a lot of hot puddles and a lot of rising steam. And it had all the frozen bike chains, and I'm sure you know where the hot water had come from. We're going to go now to the southern end of the main runway, and I should have a good load.
On the floor. Seems to be a bit low.
Just the angle and stuff.
Taxiway was 50 up, it would have been much wider. Now the only thing that's left of water, not those Charamon things, are those upside down mushrooms by the hedge. They are threshold markers or runway light holders. They would have been along here.